Tell if she has a life vest on. Do people around her know if she has a life vest on? I mean, I would assume not. I would assume she wasn't prepared to be swept away by a current.
Gina, I simply don't know because, quite honestly, we're pretty far back here on I-10. We're here where the water, where there is no water on the freeway, so we're pretty far back. I'm not sure how she got in this situation or what happened.
It looks like a T-shirt. Your photographer just did a zoom in for us, and it looks like she has on a T-shirt, and that's it.
You know what?
And off screen, and I'm not going to pan to this, Art and Gina, but off screen there is another gentleman who's now pulling in a boat, a boat with a big pickup truck, trying to get it into the westbound lanes of I-10 to get that boat in here, presumably trying to get to this woman. But again, we've seen helicopters circling in this area, and people have been waving from the ground up here. Again, we got here about last 10 minutes or so. People have been waving to those helicopters, trying to get their attention on what's unfolding there on your screen. A woman obviously in distress, fearful right now she might be swept away by the currents here on Interstate 10.
Oh wow, look at that shot just to see how far.
So much water in that area.
And just to give you an idea of how many people are out here watching this unfold, hoping for the best right now.
Yeah, now, you say there's a current there, but I'm sure, is it because of the water flow, because it's receding, or is that what's causing the current in that area? Because I know that there's not a river here close by. This is a result of just overflow and just flooding. But is that water flowing somewhere else? I suppose it's just trying to go downstream.
Art, I would suspect that the Greens Bayou, which has flooded out parts of Uvalde and Normandy here on the northeast side of town, that bayou is out of its banks, flooding the freeway along with the other channel that's just to the east of it. Forgive me for lapsing on the name there, but those two bodies of water.
Right. Yeah, no
those two bodies of water have swelled, and so the water, as you know, our meteorologists have told us time and time again, that water, flows out to the Gulf, so it's flowing south, right? And it's flowing at a pretty good current because we tried to pass on one of the feeder roads just south of here, actually on Market Street, but we were unable to move our news vehicle through there because the rushing water was too intense at that point.
Well, we know Greens Bayou is so bad that a bridge over Greens Bayou collapsed. Yeah, right. So we know how heavy the rainfall has been in that area. We see a wrong way sign right there too, and you know those signs are usually a good 8 feet up,
if that or
and
more,
it looks like there's only 2 feet left below that sign. There they go again, trying to approach her. We're hoping they can throw out a stick, maybe the pole there. Here they go with that. Let's see if she is able to grab that. I'm assuming that because if that concrete barrier, she must be balancing herself on top of that if it's that deep, and trying to, keep herself balanced on that.
She is right alongside that concrete barrier, and you can see the water pushing from north to south, so over the westbound lanes, over the eastbound lanes, pushing that boat, I presumably, farther south as well.
I'm wondering if they're afraid that they might be running into something on the bottom of that.
The photographer, Chris O'Sara, I'm working with, is saying he was saying he can see from his perspective, it looks like the boat's fighting the current right now to try to get to her.
Yeah, it looks like it is going toward them. And, we have seen so many incredible rescues over the past few days. And this is just another one as we try and save every single person in southeast Texas that we can lay eyes on. And so there she goes. What is she losing? She looks like she's trying to walk now.
And I want to draw your attention very quickly, Art and Gina, if Chris, you can hear me, if we can pan out and look to the right here, we have two gentlemen who right now are moving this boat into the floodwaters here at Interstate 10. Presumably, you're trying to get to her, sir, correct? Sir, it appears that they're trying to get to her. Chris, if you can just zoom out and show them here on the, again, we're on the eastbound lanes of the freeway right now. You can see these two gentlemen are working to get this boat in the eastbound lanes of I-10, presumably to reach her.
Well, I wonder why the other boat is not able to reach her. I suppose we're not there. We don't completely understand why they're not able to reach her, but perhaps this boat can because they're on the opposite side of that current. They don't have to fight it.
Fight against it. And I'm thinking maybe, too, that they're concerned if they go too fast toward her, that they might rush her over, like the water might go over her head. Right. I don't know. I mean, I wish I could say I was a boat captain.
When you were hearing from some of the eyewitnesses some of the eyewitnesses we spoke with off camera were saying that from their understanding that she is very distraught. So might not be necessarily processing what's unfolding right before her.
Well, it's great that there are 2 boats there making an attempt to rescue her, and I'm sure they are going to. We're going to stay with it, obviously, but I certainly feel like they're going to figure it out with her right in front of their face. Again, it seems like every day at this time of day, one of the challenges too we're looking at is you want to get the rescue done before the sun goes down.
Right.
And I can see that it's still light out, but we don't have a lot of time before the sun goes down, so they want to figure it out before that happens.
Absolutely. And Stephen, I think you may have discussed this before, but I was just wondering, how did she even end up there? Did she decide to go for a walk, or did she drive her vehicle into that area?
Art, simply, we don't know the answer to that question right now. The eyewitnesses who are out here, and there are hundreds at this point looking on here on the east side of the waterway, are looking on. No one seems to know the answer to that question.
You know, another
how
observation.
Exactly she ended up in that.
Yeah. Another observation
I
our
will
producer
say that
pointed out, Steve, I'm sorry, is that there could be boats that are preventing, cars below the boat, keeping the boat from going any farther.
Yeah.
Because you never know how many.
That's actually a fantastic observation, because you see a box truck. You see a box truck that's almost, it looks like the cabin of that box truck is covered. So with the cabin of a box truck being covered, you would assume that water could be covering cars there as well.
It looks like that other boat is getting pretty close to her, which is a good thing, but still not approaching her. They must be able to see something under that water that prevents them from going forward. You know, and you have an engine, of course. They probably have one of those 200 horsepower engines on the back end of that little boat, or 100 horsepower, and that engine drops at least 1.5 feet or 2 feet. And so as a result of that, you know, you're going to be hitting anything on the underneath. So perhaps they're watching out for that. But you're right, Steve. Look at that Valero gas station. Those signs are so high.
How high the water is.
And just to speculate, Art and Gina, at this point, as to where she might have been, whether she was in a car or something like that, to the north of the freeway, there's a motel. There's also apartments and homes there. So quite honestly, it would be difficult to see where exactly at this point how she ended up there.
Yeah.
You know, and including our news crews here at the station, but certainly I can see the case is true with these the folks on the boats there. A lot of people just don't walk around with vests, life preserver vests, and you know, you would like to think people have them on boats, but a lot of boats got called into action, and I'm seeing that, you know, I don't see. It looks like the boat that was out there first, some of those folks have on life vests, but the boat now approaching her, they don't, so there's not the option necessarily of throwing her out a life vest, which is one of the options normally you might want to take advantage of.
Those 2 gentlemen on that boat that just got in the water, unfortunately I wasn't able to get to them before they got out there, but they look like just 2 average citizens.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. They're obviously not affiliated with any kind of law enforcement agency. They just look like 2 people out here with a boat who just backed up their truck and unloaded it.
Is the other boat affiliated with, are they from a local agency, or are they just volunteers?
Chris, can you see that from your vantage point, whether or not the first boat is with any law enforcement agency?
What does that say on the side? I think
Billy Sticks.
Billy Sticks. I don't
it looks like that's a regular citizen.
Yeah.
And you know what? The story of this.
It looks like this is Houston again, just perfect strangers out here trying to help this woman out.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But they do have I saw the person have a life. She does.
They do on that boat.
They have a life vest.
It's the second boat. I mean, it's really the story of this, I think, when all is said and done, is going to be how many people there were like this who saved thousands of people. There's no way to tax all of us citizens enough to get a official type at every scene over thousands of miles where there's been flooding. And so people like this, we really depend on them to help save our friends and neighbors.
The numbers are astronomical when you start speaking about those evacuations or rescues. Well, they just threw her a line. I just saw a line being thrown to her from that opposite side. So let's see what happens. She's got a hold of it. She's got a hold of it.
Steve, we're going to turn it over to you.
She's coming to the side, and there it is. Looks like she's been rescued. They just bumped into something.
It looks like that gentleman who
is
grabbing her onto that boat right now as we speak.
Wow.
There you go.
Grabbing her.
Jumped right into action.
With no life vest on, you know, she's heavy because she's wet. You know, I don't know how much she weighs, but she's heavy because she's wet. And he reached right over there and grabbed her up by her shirt and pulled her on up to safety. Not knowing what's below that, as you said, you know, that could be hitting his boat. Amazing.
Just jump back in.
Wait a minute. She just jumped back in.
She jumped back in. My photographer is saying that she just jumped back in.
Oh
Okay,
my
she
gosh.
just jumped back in. This is clearly someone who does not want to be
You're
rescued.
saying that she jumped back in.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
I don't
that
understand
coincides
that,
with what
but you
eyewitnesses
saw
were
her
telling
just
us out
jump
here that
back
she
in.
was distraught.
That she was so distraught.
You know what?
She
when
may have a
someone's-
mental health problem because
Yeah, I think that's who we're dealing with, Steve.
Oh, this breaks your heart because obviously she was not comfortable hanging onto the wall. That was obvious.
But she was laying down. She was perfectly
She was
safe. There
perfectly
was
safe.
no reason for her to get off the edge again. But she clearly has other issues, I think, that we're dealing with here, because even a person in shock would not do that. It would just,
No,
they would
there's
just
something
stay
else going
on the boat. There's something else.
And you don't know what other kind
Yeah.
of losses and how people react to the other losses they have sustained because of this. She seems like she's walking though now,
At
right?
this point, she's being able to stand.
To walk, yes.
So I'm not sure if they got her a little bit closer
Yeah.
to more shallow land there.
It's difficult when you're dealing with someone who simply, at least at this point, does not want to be rescued. But, Stephen, we're going to walk away from this because we have
that's
other
something we've not seen
video
before.
to get to. Yeah. Of all the rescues we have seen, which have been into the tens of thousands,
I was going to say,
I think this is the first that we have seen of someone saying, hey, I don't want to jump back in the water.
I mean, we've seen